is up, you guys? This is Art Post Cove. I am your host, Isaiah Perrier, and I am so fortunately welcoming in my very first guest, Mr. Duncan Holzhall. Welcome on the show, Duncan.
Thank you for having me, Isaiah. It's always an experience with you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. From the book to experiences before, road trips to New York, of course. It's always a mighty pleasure, Mr. Holzhall.
Yep. That's sometimes it.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to start, obviously, off with the drink for the show, something I've never, ever had before. I decided that since I am new to my area that is full of a lot of fucking hipsters, I have to have a drink I've never had. And
Right.
that is kombucha today. I've never, ever had kombucha.
Dude, you're from Seattle. I feel like they baptize people in kombucha up in the Pacific Northwest.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but maybe, probably. Maya's more from Seattle anyways. I grew up in a small town. You know that.
Yes, I do know that. I know all of your various B towns. Which is a very interesting fact and coincidence that I didn't notice until you pointed it out.
Yeah. No, I thought about, because I've been thinking, every podcaster, because, I'm so far along and we're doing so well with the show so far. Every podcaster has a bunch of tats. I was like, what if I got a giant bee and all the bee towns along?
Just your back tat, bee. Back.
Yeah. Blaine, Bellingham, Boston, Bloomington, Brooklyn.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I thought it would be funny.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the booch?
The booch? We'll check it out. I ran across the bodega before the show and left Duncan just sitting here so I could get the drink of the day.
Wait, you went to a bodega during that time?
Yeah. Dude, pretty good. Pretty good time, right?
Dude, I have to walk like 5 minutes to Village Pantry in order to get anything.
Yeah, other side of the street. There's just New York things.
Yeah, just little Indiana things.
Yeah, how's the weather in Bloomington, by the way?
It was overcast with light snow all of today. So really it's just very gloomy weather. I had a headache most of the day. So as you can tell, pretty typical for central Indiana.
Yeah, it's cold as shit here in New York. I'm very glad I got a parka the other day because it dropped into like mainly 30s, 20s for the next week.
You don't need a parka for 30s and 20s. You need a coat. You don't need a parka.
Whatever. This thing is beautiful and I love it, and it was great for the price, only $100.
I will say $100 for that parka is not a bad deal. But
yeah, thank you very much.
But I'll wear my K-Swiss pea coat that I got for $35 2 years ago, and it's still wearing just fine to this day.
All right. Well, my purchases, are always questionable.
Yes.
Especially the fact that I paid $5 for this whole container of kombucha.
Yeah, kombucha is hella expensive.
That's what I heard, but I've been holding it here for a while. I feel like I should give it a try.
Yes.
This is Health
That's what I've been waiting for.
Kombucha, a bubbly probiotic tea.
Yo, is that GT Dave?
God. Is that's from That's Cringe, right? Cody Ko and Noel.
The Kombucha King.
Yeah. I don't know what to think.
Does it taste like someone replaced the sugar in a soda with vinegar?
I was told already about the vinegar thing beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tea and vinegar, right? That's what it tastes like.
It's a fermented tea product. So it's supposed to be, quote, a little boozy. I mean, some tequila in a kombucha would actually be a pretty sick cocktail.
Okay. Yeah, for all those cats listening from Williamsburg, because that's where something like that would be born. Get to it. Um,
Then my drink for the day is
okay.
my vitamin routine because I wasn't here this morning, so I didn't get a chance to take them. So I take some vitamin D3 because I'm inside more often than usual, and in overcast, I need to get my sunlight.
Right.
And then I take a men's multi gummy because um, I still subscribe to traditional ideas of gender when it comes to vitamin supplements. That and only
Jeez.
that.
Oh my gosh. Well, now that we're through our drinks or whatever you want to call that, whatever that just was,
Mhm.
I want to start off with something very simple, how we met. We'll just start with that because people probably don't know us and we don't know if this is actually going to take off. So maybe someone watching this might not know us,
Right.
you know.
So, how did we meet? I mean, we were around each other freshman year. Well,
A
my freshman
sophomore
year. So,
post the
Isaiah is
transfer.
technically a year older than me, but we kind of regarded each other as the same age just because you transferred to IU
Yeah.
your sophomore year. So, we were entering IU at the same time.
Entering at the same time.
Yeah.
Same studio. Similar voice.
Yeah. And then you
Same
left
vibe.
the studio.
Yeah, feels bad.
Yeah, so we were
Shit
around each
happens.
other and I think generally aware of each other most of freshman year. And then we were in West Side Story together, but we still didn't interact all too much freshman year. Um,
Yeah.
it wasn't until the year after.
Spring
Yeah,
of
it wasn't.
2018 in a production of the Lisier d'Amore.
It was actually spring of
No.
2019.
2019. I can't fucking keep track of
Spring
this
of
shit, man.
2018 was West Side Story. 2019 was Le
Really? I'm
Lisieux.
feeling crazy and old. The
Yeah,
time
so
already went.
yeah,
Wow.
it was during that production that we really got to know each other and started hanging out more often. There was the
I also just pulled up and hung out with Carly and Maya, and you were there. So,
yeah, two of our mutual friends that we're very close with to this day. Yeah, Isaiah would just roll up and we just by sheer what's the word, exposure, we became friends.
sounds about right. But yeah, no, so we both went to the same university, of course, and we did a lot of similar things, but you took a different path. You started out in music ed and then you ended up going in more of the artistic admin direction. Do you want to explain that a little more?
Yes. A 6-year-old squirted his apple juice on my groin. And at that moment, I decided I couldn't be a teacher. So
Wow.
there were a number of other factors. I want to be clear. There were a number of other factors. For me, there was an element of I'm a very ambitious person. And for me, it was hard to see a distinct level of climbing within the world of music education. It was I and I have this problem a lot where I look at people I admire and I want to be like them, so I decide to follow their careers rather than realizing that it's the intrinsic characteristics and traits of the person that make me like them, not their career. So what was for me was I had a music teacher, Mr. Landis, who is very inspirational to me, and I wanted to be a lot like him. And so I went down the music education route. And I realized that I liked him because he was funny and caring and passionate and knowledgeable about music. It wasn't because he was a music teacher. So I did a little bit of soul searching, a little bit of questing in, and I did a summer internship with Cincinnati Opera as an artistic intern. And I really fell in love with it. And I thought, this is the kind of stuff that I want to be doing. I want to be producing. I want to be enabling artists to do their best artistry, do all the work that they don't want to do so that they can focus on what they're really phenomenal at. So after that, I changed my degree. Did some retroactive work, and I realized that if I'd done that from the very beginning, I would have graduated in 3 years flat. But
Might have been
we all
nice,
make,
hey?
we all make mistakes along the way,
Yeah.
But if it weren't for this last year of me being in school, I would have graduated into the worst job market in recent memory.
Exactly. And it's only deteriorated a little bit more.
Just a little.
I don't know. I've been looking around, I sit on a subway every morning. The subways are fuller. People are coming back. The city's alive. Things are coming back. Things are changing. Maybe not for the good. What?
This is a list of over 200 jobs that I've applied to in the past 2 months. And I have had 2 interviews, one of which was for a healthcare technology company, and one was for a radio station.
Wow.
Radio station.
I love the ASMR you're doing here with the paper turning into the microphone. I really like that ASMR effect. I think that's going to be a nice touch for the show.
It's just me unfolding my Bible. I want to pray together. Yeah, so a little bit of a rocky job market, but we'll make it through. We'll make it through. I'm confident in that.
Yeah. Well, anyways, now that we've got the full intro out of the way, I want to get to where most of these stories will begin. The beginning of 2020, a happier time, a time that felt so fucking promising.
Yes.
And just wasn't. So covering what I covered a little bit in the first podcast, the Johnny Skiki show, we had a fucking great time with that, right? Oh yeah. Total ball, right? Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And 2020 was off to a great start. What did we do after? I was writing this, I was doing the notes for this, and I was like, what the hell did we do between Skiki and like COVID? Like literally, I feel like nothing. I think we went to Maya's recital. Our pianist friend Maya. Yeah.
There was Magic Flute.
Oh yeah. Well, you were doing something else though. Oh, you were prepping NVO, right? And I'll let you continue.
Yes. Last year, I was the executive director of New Voices Opera, which is an opera company that is dedicated to premiering contemporary opera. And we were gearing up for our April 27th premiere of John William Griffith's The Jungle. It was based on the Upton Sinclair novel of the same name. And we were just about to start rehearsals. And then we didn't.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was like, what was he doing? I know he was working on something important.
Yeah, and you knew that I was stressed out all the time.
And you're like, it's still gonna happen. It's still gonna
I was like, well, it is still gonna happen was not because of the COVID thing. It was more no one thought that we would be able to pull it together in time. I was like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And then COVID happened. Yeah. We thought, let's push it off to next year.
Yeah. We can figure out more on that later. But now, since we've got like kind of this basic outline of how great things were, great with parentheses because you were stressed out of your mind. Let's get into the depressing part because this is, it's the part in the hero's journey of the podcast where you look back and see the shadow of doubt and everything. But we're really just talking about quarantine. And yeah. So let's Oh, thanks, Siri. All right. That's great. Great job, Isaiah. Great podcast. All right. There we go.
Dude, all right. Siri on the podcast next time.
Dude, Siri, I'm going to interview Siri and see how much she doesn't understand. But anyways, let's talk about the depressing stuff. Why not?
Yes. So for me, I wasn't I didn't get, that immediate COVID blues until probably, I'd say, October of this year. And there are a fair number of reasons for that. Well, for one, I was kind of a personal philosophy of mine is I read and subscribe a lot to Stoic thought. And one of the big principles in the Stoic philosophy is um, kind of negative visualization, preparing for the worst. Memento mori is another one. Remember that you will die, knowing that at any point, an event that is totally out of your control could happen and derail all of your plans. And you have to be okay with that because that's the only way that you will, you know, be resilient and be able to rebound from such a tragedy. So that came quite in handy come COVID time. Yeah, as I was talking about, New Voices Opera's production was postponed. Um, I had a summer program in Italy that was postponed originally. It just got postponed again. And then I also had a summer program in Berlin that was again postponed.
Yeah.
So I had about a year and a half worth of work that I had been doing and was just about to start paying off, just was about to reap the benefits of. And then COVID hit. And was I obviously bummed about it? Sure, we all were. But for me, I felt that there was more of a, well, what are you going to do now? So the Stoic philosophy really helped me with that resilience factor of it. I only started getting the COVID blues in October, I think, because I'd realized how much of my life had gone down a total left turn that I couldn't have predicted. But I was thinking about what if none of this had happened and I kept on that original trajectory, would I be in a better place with the job market? Would I be better positioned to, produce this work, do this, do that? And that's when a lot of the self-doubt and questioning came up. And I'm still kind of working with that now, even now, but I think all in all, I took more of an attitude of, well, you can still probably do something right now. So that's what I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly, what could I forget more? Like, how could I forget our wonderful health journey we had there for May to June and then texting through,
Mm-hmm.
growing over that. That was kind of the thing. You kind of started, when would you say you started your like health journey and you're like kind of building up everything? Because I know you were active before. You had worked at the gym there at the university.
Dude, I worked at the gym just because it was a job. I didn't care about the gym, and I had hated working there. And then I went back and started to love the gym when I was an active participant. I actually started really just about exactly a year ago. I was looking at progress photos. I was like, damn, Shorty got shredded. Yeah, and I started, reading up a lot about, really, I don't want to say basic nutritional information, but it was stuff like understanding macronutrients, understanding the, theories and just the basic concept of antagonistic exercises, different kinds of activity based on different um, goals or outcomes, as well as, mental wellness and just trying to build a well-being on a whole. So, and obviously a big part of that was fitness YouTube, which to date, everyone I know still gives me shit for being on fitness YouTube. But
Greg Dissett, Philly on.
Will
Greg,
Jackson,
do your
Billy
set.
on, Nick Bear, Jesse James West.
Oh my
the
gosh.
list goes on.
Yo, The Rock, He's a fake natty. The biggest fake natty in Hollywood.
Yeah, water intake's probably on point.
God, no one's gonna get this. They're like, isn't this a podcast about art?
Exactly.
But anyways, this is important.
An art of aesthetics, which
An art of
back to Greek and Roman sculpture. When you look at how muscle-bound Greek and Roman athletes were. Fun fact: most of them were followed a mostly vegetarian diet. So,
dropping
did you
them
learn
without...
that from Game Changers too?
Yeah. Dropping them controversial ideas on the podcast here.
Oh yeah.
Mans can connect anything, but hey, you didn't just get swole during quarantine. You also did a lot of things. And I have a short list prepared that you may or may not know that I remember.
Okay.
But includes a blog, making drink pieces for cash money.
Yeah.
You wrote a little tiny, book, and it might have gotten published by Amazon and is now people have hard copies of or something like that. And it's sitting in like a bunch of different homes or something.
Yeah.
But we can't forget
Moody Music. I knew you were going to say that for last.
You gave me another one. Moody Music. No, we can't forget the one time you crossed streams with NPR.
Huh?
You auditioned for NPR, remember?
When?
Cincinnati, my guy. You thought I'd forget that. No. Full disclosure podcast. We're going through all the things.
I took down that video.
Yeah.
For good reason.
It was a dope song. I don't know what you're talking about. I liked it a lot. You're just bugging over there.
No, everyone gave me shit for it. They're like, wow, way to be a fake sad boy over here.
Way to be a...
I was a ripoff of Omar Apollo, who is a ripoff of Frank Ocean.
Oh, my gosh. No, I mean, I had to bring it up since we were doing the show. Such a good sport over here, Duncan. So I had to bring it up because I know you just brush it off your shoulder.
Yes. Yes, I do. And that's my signature dance move.
Yeah. Yeah, when you go to at the club you've never been to because you haven't been 21 outside of a pandemic.
Yep. Turned 21 during quarantine. My first alcohol purchase was a 6-pack of White Claw at 8 in the morning.
Oh my gosh, yes. But let's talk about all those things. Besides the ones you didn't want to remember. Because we already touched base on them. But if you just want to go.
Okay, so the blog was something, it's been an on and off sort of passion of mine. I started one junior year of high school, and then where I did album reviews of the most inconsequential albums of all time. I'm talking like The Scenic Route by Eloquent. I'm talking the European Concerts, which was a live compilation disc by the Dave Brubeck Quartet. I'm talking, I think I did a review of Porgy and Bess by Miles Davis, which is a consequential jazz record, yes, but it came out in 1957. We could stop talking about it. And then I brought it back, revitalized it senior year of high school, when I had a radio show at my high school station, and I did similar things. I reviewed coffee, I reviewed music, and it was great. It's designed by had a website designed by a buddy of mine who got canceled. And then I restarted the blog thing because I realized I had a lot of creative pent-up energy that I needed to release somewhere. So I decided that the best place to do that, to start, would be to revitalize the blog. So what I did were drink pieces, and I call them that because they're not as serious as think pieces. So, and these were things that were just essays that were expanding on thoughts I'd had about music. One of the first ones was how the using abstract visuals can amplify the certain effect that a song can have. And I used examples like James Blake's You're Too Precious, Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel, and Yellow Submarine, the music film, obviously by the Beatles.
Only bars.
Only bars on this one. And
Oh yeah.
there are various other things. I later expanded this into including some timely reviews, and also later expanded it into my series that I write for the radio station now, which is called Speculative Saturdays, where I just write out and extrapolate kind of music industry trends, where they're going to go. My next one I'm planning on writing is how More Life is actually an ambient album, and none of us realized it. But that was the main impetus of the blog. It was really just kind of stream of consciousness, me getting thoughts out into the world, and hopefully becoming a music influencer along the way.
Mad dope.
That's
I
what
like it a
I'm
lot, you know. I read most of them. I did not read all of them. Honestly, I totally forgot about your Saturday postings.
Yeah.
I don't really put them
Well,
out there. So I
I
just
mean, the problem is also my publishers will occasionally will just like publish them on like Mondays or Tuesdays, even though I send them every Thursday at 12 p.m. Give them 2 days to do it,
wow.
and I still have two in the tank waiting to be published. There's one which is a history of anarcho-primitivist memes, um, and then it's
I think
like
I
all
talk
the
about that
monkey,
later.
it's all the monkey memes that you see, and then
Oh
I'm
yeah.
also waiting on reevaluating mistletoe in the Me Too era.
Oh. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. That's some stuff waiting to
Yeah.
be published. Are you sure the subject matter might be just a little bit something they don't really want to post on a radio show?
Hey, it's a culture article.
You got me there. You got me there. But specifically, one thing really stuck out, Duncan, that caught the eyes of everyone. The book. Let's talk about the book.
What do you want to know about it?
I want to know all the things about the book, your process, your thing. It's the one thing that listeners, if they're so inclined, they can purchase
That's right, $12
for
on Amazon. You
a
only
small
can get a
price.
hard copy because I hate the planet. I'm kidding. That's a joke.
I
I
thought we
love
got
the
a
planet.
paperback.
Yeah, it is a paperback. It's a hard copy, not a hardcover.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
I am dumb.
you can nerf me in the editing process if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
This isn't getting edited. This is just a one and done guy.
Oh, just right out into the world we go.
Right out in the world. We're just sending out facts.
Yeah.
Or are they facts? I don't know. It's probably fake news. Who knows?
Hey, man, I have some facts and figures on a separate Chrome tab.
Yeah.
But the book, yeah, how did that come about? We were all talking about opera, and I was thinking about the future. And I had realized while we were all like cooped up at home, we got the opportunity to watch how opera companies dealt with the pandemic. And one of the things I noticed was, first off, how they had to play decades worth of catch up in terms of digital engagement, audience engagement, the whole social media game, and also just differing the presentation of opera. They had to play, I'd say, 15 years worth of catch up in 3 months or so. And you saw that in the quality of their presentations. I mean, the Met at home gala was atrocious.
Yeah.
You had smaller companies that really rose to the task and actually presented opera in a really innovative fashion. Such as there was a VR opera that was presented, I believe, by
Whoa.
can't remember the name. of the opera company that premiered that, but they do deserve that credit.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
But anyway, so what I realized was sitting back, everything was up in the air. And everything, even the very foundation of the opera business, was up in the air. So I thought it would be a smart idea to collect the thoughts of my peers and condense them into a vision statement for the world of opera that can be implemented so that while everything is up in the air, we can rebuild the foundation of the opera world to create a more equitable, exciting, and sustainable art form. So I compiled my list. I had wanted to make sure that I got as much representation as I could, both across race, gender, sexuality, um, as well as bum 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 occupation, what
Oh,
people did in the opera world. So, uh, collected about a dozen or so interviews with a lot of young people and one old person because I thought it would be important to get the history of the opera world and what things would be sensible to be changed and what things just couldn't be changed.
had to have one wise guy. Had to
I did
have
have to have
one
a wise
wise
guy.
guy.
Another goddamn New Yorker surrounded me.
Yeah.
But so I collected all these thoughts, and then I condensed a lot of the opinions of these people into a coherent vision statement. So what I published was all these interviews, minimally edited with humorous footnotes. I like to think they're humorous. Some people think they're annoying, but I believe they're necessary to decode some of the opera jargon that happens throughout, so that really anyone of any level of exposure to opera can read it. Because ultimately, that was one of the criticisms that young people had for the opera industry is that it's not accessible, that younger people don't really know how to get into opera. So one of the things that I took upon myself to do was to specifically decode a lot of specific artistic language so that any person could understand it. And you get a lot of these very interesting, very nuanced perspectives on the opera world. And in the end, you get a list of tangible recommendations. And these recommendations were targeted at opera companies specifically, hoping that they would enact these changes, enact these practices in order to make a more fair industry. But they're also for the reader to hold these companies accountable for making these changes. You say, now hang on. What are your hiring practices like? Have you improved representation in the business Also, I looked at your season this year. I do like it on the whole, but don't you think there could be some more of this? So really, it's a tool more than anything for accountability and a time capsule of our thoughts.
Incredible. Thus, the voices of tomorrow's songs was
That's
born.
the name of the book. That's the name of the book.
Name of the book. Out there by Duncan Holzhall, $12 on Amazon. Buy it today.
All told, it took me.
Prime it.
Yeah, I started the interviews in, I want to say, early May. And
yeah, I think so.
The book was published in late August. So it took me about 1, 2, 3, 4 months from conception to publishing for this book.
Right. You were like, yeah, I'm going to finish this when I get home.
Yeah.
Because you had a lease ending.
There was a bulk of editing done at my now destroyed childhood home.
Oh, it was just no. Oh yeah, we totally talked about this. Your childhood, kaboom, bye, gone.
Yeah. I'm planning on getting a tattoo that commemorates it, but
getting a tattoo. That's going to be under wraps. Going to have to wait for the Instagram and TikTok reveal. We're going to live stream it.
Well,
we're going to slowly tear the shirt off.
I'm gonna wait until I have a job because I feel like it's at that point that I can deserve to treat myself a little bit.
Yeah, right. How much? Gosh, I've never had a tattoo. Fun fact. How much do they cost?
You've seen my chest piece, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was $180
Oh my lord.
for that. It was just
Worth.
black and white lettering.
Yeah. Okay, maybe not worth, but it's a
It's
time capsule, like you said, a capsule.
capsule. Yeah, J Glide in the IPA.
Yeah, yeah, Jay. Yeah, a little British. Yeah. Well, definitely, you definitely made the most of your quarantine, and the October blues do make sense because you did get a lot done.
Oh, that was also right after my recital too. That
Yeah,
probably had something to do with it.
yeah. Also, you had the recital to look forward to, everything like that. You were like, man, this sucks, but like, oh shit, I have that, and I want to do this. I want to do that.
Yeah.
You had a lot on the docket for what you wanted to accomplish, and still do. And
Mhm.
speaking of which, let's talk about what came well for you in the fall. We can talk about, the radio show, what you do there, and also what incredible thing you did, the X with NVO. That was
Oh
something
yes.
spectacular. Those two things specifically I'd like to point out and talk more about.
Okay. The radio show, as I've previously mentioned, it was just an opportunity for me to exercise my music opinion, criticism muscles in a different facet. I had a radio show for 3 years in high school, and I loved it. And for various reasons, I didn't have the chance to do it throughout my most of my college career. But when I came around to senior year, my friend Maya said, "Oh, look at this! They're having open auditions." And I said, "Okay." And I just typed in a Google form. Really didn't put very much effort into it, but they gave me a show anyway, and I'm really grateful for that. So it's eclectic mixes, 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. Normally, you'll find it at wiux.org/listen/b-side, but in this little intercession for the next 2 or 3 weeks, you'll find it on twitch.tv/wiuxlp. This upcoming week, I'm going to be making a beat. So follow along as I live stream a beat making.
Oh my gosh. That's going to
Yeah.
be incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So
Yeah.
more than anything, it was, I feel like after the recital and after the book, I felt like that I needed some, not necessarily a break from classical music, but I needed a little bit of space to explore my other musical interests. So the radio show was a great way for me to do that. I'd have weekly news blasts talking about music industry news, and then I'd touch on various aspects of the music industry in interesting ways, like what happened to the live album, why do people always compare Prince and Michael Jackson, did a whole episode on psychedelic music. So just,
Dark Side of the Moon.
there was that whole Pink Floyd episode where
Yeah.
the one track you need to hear from Pink Floyd to sum up their entire artistic ethos, it is Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 through
Oh
9.
yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
so yeah,
A lot more than Kanye's one track.
Yeah. It's 25 minutes of Pink Floyd.
Versus 8,
5
6,
minutes.
5,
5
minutes.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about doing one on David Bowie later this semester. I'm on a real big Bowie kick lately.
Okay.
Just finished a book on Brian Eno. So
Right. Nice.
yeah. So that's the radio show. And then there's also The X, which I did with New Voices Opera. This year, The X it's usually a concert exhibition. It was also one this year. But it's usually a live concert. So last year we had held it just in a local church. We had composers submitting opera songs and arias, opera scenes as well. And we would just premiere them, and the audience would pick a favorite, and then with that knowledge, the board would decide and commission the next opera composer to premiere the next big full-length main stage work. So this semester was a little different. We had very severe space restrictions, time restrictions, rehearsal restrictions regarding COVID, regarding personnel. So we decided to do a virtual concert exhibition. So we had 6 songs and scenes and arias, which was insane. It was about 50. It was a 50-minute program front to back, and
Wow.
from composers ranging all over the world. We had submissions from the U.S. all over, like in California and New York. We had submissions from Canada. We had a few people from Montreal submit. We even had a submission from Nigeria make it.
Wow.
So we were really able to expand the reach and really affect more people and get a larger scale thanks to this virtual format. And
That's incredible.
we all told, from when we finally approved the program, okay, the biggest hassle was recruiting performers. I had to sing the tenor parts because tenors don't like to work. So
This message is approved.
yes, I had to sing all these tenor parts, but recruiting the rest of the personnel, between that and then actually rehearsing and filming, it took 2 weeks to rehearse and coach. Then we knocked it out in 1 day of filming. It was a marathon, like 5-hour day of just filming, because we had to also take breaks to let the room aerate and clear out a little bit. And then it was 2 weeks of post-production, and you can find it on YouTube. Just type in New Voices Opera DX, and you get to watch it.
Yeah. The presentation on the thing is incredible. Really, you guys did a spectacular job putting that together. It brings a lot of hope to me for a future that can be more virtual for the opera industry, which does not want to move. It is a horse stuck. Mm-hmm. It refuses to adapt. It wants to stay and wait and let it die. On that topic, transitioning, we now know a lot about you, Duncan. But what I really want to know is, what do you think is going to be the steps that your particular expertise of your things, talking about pop music, of course, it's going to be fine. It's going to be on Spotify, but particularly the opera and, like just whatever you think, the future of music in this COVID world where, say, we have to deal with perhaps concerts being masked or, creating opera with distance and, of course, masks, which are an incredible hassle that you have definitely dealt with way more than me. And yeah, what do you think?
So I have many thoughts on the issue. I'm going to start big and then get small. So just start with arts policy in this country in general. So on the whole, a lot of creative workers, by the nature of the creative economy, are kind of left to fight for themselves. Earlier this year, at the peak unemployment rate in this country, it was 14.8%. Compare that to, at that same point, 63% of artists were fully unemployed. 63% of creative workers were unemployed. And 95% of them reported a loss of income. And they also reported an average loss of anticipated income of $22,000 a year per person, which totals to a loss of $50.6 billion in the creative economy during this pandemic. That is colossal. So the question is, what are you going to do about it on a legislative level? Because like it or not, there are a lot of people out there who are like, fund the arts, man. And I agree with the sentiment, but you have to tackle you have to work within that system and tackle this issue through policy. That's going to be one of the most effective ways you can do that. So there are several ways you can do it. I mean, with this new administration, Biden has made clear that one of his focuses is going to be an investment in clean energy and energy efficient infrastructure. Now, how you can employ creative workers during that time and get a direct employment is a proposal similar to the WPA that FDR enrolled in the New Deal, where you can employ creative workers to beautify infrastructure, to create creative campaigns that surround larger legislative and policy commitments. That's one way you can do it. You can increase, you can better the creative economy through a policy level. You can also, increase that through direct employment within federal agencies, or under the guise of several like federal agencies and endowments such as the NEA, NEH sort of thing. Another solution to this entire issue is, let me just click over to another tab so that I can make sure I'm not misquoting anything here. Yes.
We're going to know about the card cover.
Because look, trust me, both my parents are lawyers. They're going to shred me to shreds. Shred me to shreds if I misquote something.
Oh,
so
yes.
One of the other things that you have to realize is that you have to make investments in smaller businesses, whether these are making an investment in restart runways, low to no interest loans, or other temporary interventions like incentivized hiring in order to really kickstart the creative engine. Another thing, there are several people that the United States government fucks over. One of the largest...
You could say that again.
One of the largest populations of that is that often goes unnoticed are people who are self-employed, which includes a lot of artists. People who have W-2s and 1099s, they're often excluded from unemployment benefits because of their self-employed status. They often are locked out of refinancing options, affordable food options, and there's also a lot of language within various policies and legislation and statute in this country that excludes self-employed people, which includes a whole lot of artists. So you need to go back, revise some of this code in order to make specific inclusions for creative workers and specific protections for creative workers. So once you do that, that's one big solution, but that you need a lot of mobilization in order to accomplish. That's big. Further down the funnel, you have individual companies' actions. You have individual practices of these companies. One thing that a lot of companies did this year, which there's no reason they should not continue, is within the opera world specifically, they had a consortium of auditions for young artist programs. So it used to be, in the old model, that you would fly to every single place, young artist program you're auditioning for, to sing for these people. You would hop on a plane to Cincinnati, and then you'd fly down to Miami. Then you'd fly up to, get to Chautauqua, and then over to Chicago. And that gets really expensive
Absolutely.
for people. But what they did this year during the pandemic was that they had a central hub where you could submit your pre-screening videos and you would get contacts further for live Zoom auditions. Now, this dramatically cuts down on travel and logistics costs, and it really tears down a lot of barriers that prevent young artists from disenfranchised positions, it tears down those barriers to entry, right?
Mhm.
So that's a practice that I see no reason they should not continue going forward. There is a reason they will not continue it, though, and that's because of money. It's because of the money that they can make off of young artists' application fees. And there's when you talk about that and you talk about fixing that, you have to approach the business model as a whole. You have to realize, well, the reason they're milking these vulnerable young artists for money is because they're not getting money coming in the door. Whether it's because, I mean, obviously with COVID, you're going to see a sharp decline because a there was the whole you can't let audiences come see your show.
Mhm. Yeah, small thing.
Yeah,
Only the whole source of money.
yeah. Financial losses for nonprofit cultural organizations and arts organizations to date, $13.9 billion.
Oh my God.
So,
Just keeps getting worse, man.
and then beyond that, even when we reopen, are people going to feel safe? Are people going to feel safe going to the opera house? I mean,
Oh.
probably considering pre-COVID, those shows were already socially distanced. Um, so you have
Oh my God.
yeah, yeah. So you have to look at the business model and see how come what we're offering is not making enough money. And then you have to look into donor practices. And a lot of donors, this is a common issue in nonprofit organizations. A lot of donors donate and earmark their donations for programs, which is great. We need money to stage programs. That's wonderful. But there's a funny thing that happens. When a donor says, I want this to go to program, that suddenly becomes a net asset with donor restrictions. And, you know, I learned this in my accounting course, nonprofit accounting course. Once there are donor restrictions placed on a net asset, which in this case is usually revenue through the way of a financial contribution. Once you earmark that, you cannot unearmark it, and to spend it anywhere else is a crime.
Yeah.
So the problem is you often have a lot of organizations that are very well funded in their program departments, but they are tremendously underfunded in overhead. They can't keep the lights on. They can't attract talented staff. They can't expand the scope of their organization. They can only just keep shoveling more money into more opulent programming, but they're not seeing any return on that by, hiring a talented development professional who can grow their fund, or hiring a, wunderkind marketing guru.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So you
Just
have
right out of your ass, huh?
exactly. So as far as what companies are going to be doing after the pandemic, I think you're going to see this sort of split. I really do.
Yeah.
You're seeing it now already, where you have smaller independent companies blossoming with innovative programming, and they're attracting a lot of attention within the opera press. They're even attracting attention in other places. I mean, you saw On Site Opera got a whole write-up in the New York Times about their mail-out opera program. So
Wow.
you're going to see a large swath of unconnected independent companies growing, while you're going to see large traditionally stable institutions like the Met just see
Yeah.
their just
Pay your musicians. Don't make your conductor pay for them.
It's funny.
They need to be held accountable. Like, seriously, they're getting away with highway robbery. Where'd all that money go?
Yeah, it's weird. My dad and I when it comes to things like politics. We don't agree very often, but we did agree on this. As we did agree that this was absolute insanity, even within the opera world, even within the performing arts world. It's what the Met is doing is totally uncharacteristic, and as a result, I feel like it's going to die. It's going to die within the next 10 years. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. I
you
mean,
said it.
yeah,
You said it better. You
into the
said
Hudson. It's going right into the Hudson.
all gonna
Seriously, we're
line
all
up.
gonna line up. We're all gonna chug a kombucha and we're gonna push it in to the Hudson. That's what we're gonna do.
Pop our Popeye spinach and just
Exactly.
muscle it in. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what you're going to see is a lot of these larger institutions having a sort of identity crisis, and ultimately, what will decide the fate of these art forms is seeing where the next generation goes and stays. If
Yeah.
if an artist can make a living, singing with 2 or 3 or 4 independent houses, then they're going to be less inclined to take an unlucrative deal at the Met. And I know
Yeah.
firsthand that the Met gives, even pre-COVID, has shitty deals for artists. They don't help them.
Oh yeah.
They don't
Every
help
single
them find
person.
housing. They give them a measly per diem. And so what you're going to see is where talented people go and where talented people stay. That will ultimately determine the future of the art form.
I mean, yeah. I mean, every single story I've heard from the different people I've met over the years that have worked at the Met have all said it was the worst place they worked, and that is like the exact verbiage, the exact phrase. It's like verbatim what they all say. That it was the worst place I ever worked. And I mean, it's just ridiculous, like hearing stories of like finding condoms in the rehearsal rooms, all the bad shit that happens on the side, and of course, can't forget James Levine.
Yep.
Prodigal son, James Levine. Oh, yeah. What?
He's coming back?
Oh, no. I'm just saying. Oh, wow.
Because the prodigal son anecdote in the Bible implies a return, which I do not want to see from James Levine.
No, he's kicking somewhere. He's probably laughing his ass off at the Met right now because he ran away with his money and he got kicked out. And then the Met's going to get like totally ruined because of this pandemic. Mm-hmm. He's probably laughing his ass off in his apartment.
So, okay. We've talked big picture. We've talked medium picture. So now we have to talk about the individuals. We have to talk about the individual artists. And we touched on this briefly with the segue of where talented people go and where talented people stay. What you're seeing right now is a lot of young artists making decisions, whether it's in their education or when the programs that they sing for, that are guided more by by personal values, rather than necessarily by prestige. I mean, when you're making a decision about like graduate school, for example, there are certain places that are considered, institutions because, they have a great program. They have, teachers here. But younger artists are more continually making decisions such as graduate study based on individual experiences as well as their own personal values. Like, are you going to go to Juilliard and take out another $50,000 in loans because it will give you a Juilliard degree? Or are you going to go for a full ride at UNCSA, for example?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have these decisions that are also guided not only by practicality now more than ever, but also by values. I mean, you see people like the Thrilled to Announce podcast. They've created a list of, companies that are essentially on a watch list of sorts for actions surrounding racial equity, EDI sort of things. And you're seeing now young people beginning to hold these larger institutions accountable for making positive change. And some are rising to the action. Some are rising to that call. And then there are others that are certainly not. But what's going to happen is you're going to, as long as we have this continued push, this continued um, advocacy and accountability happening, you're going to see a healthier art form blossom within 20 years as a result, because the institutions that believe in honesty, in transparency, and in advocacy for the artists themselves, those those institutions will grow, because honesty and authenticity are actually some of the most rewarding brand characteristics, funnily enough, if we're going to talk sheer marketing. I mean, you trust a brand that's honest and upfront with you. I mean, it's why you trust
Yeah.
Denny's more than you trust like McDonald's.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, just this whole thing with the opera industry has just been such a shit show, and it's gonna test. It's gonna test a lot of, particularly I think about American opera, particularly is one that is so, there was already kind of felt like it was very much in a shambles kind of place, and now it's like fight or flight, and some of them are pretending that they're fighting, but they're not. Um, can't hammer home enough the Met. But then you have these smaller opera companies, like you're getting all, like I remember specifically saying, what would there was an opera, there was a Rhine, like a Wagnerian opera in Florida. I don't know if you saw that on Instagram. They're like big opera stars were like just gathering at, it was some kind of, it was like they did an opera, like I think a Rheingold or like a Valkyria in like a park. They had it like in a parking garage or like
Oh,
outdoor or
I
something.
saw that. There was one production of that at Michigan Opera Theater, and then one, I believe, at Atlanta.
Okay, yeah. Down.
Atlanta's been doing a lot of interesting programming during this time. And meanwhile, the Met has been hiring non-union musicians to play for its galas.
Yeah, doing that, and also just paying for these ridiculous venues to have the top tier world singers perform in when they could just do something more intimate and realistic and relatable. Let's talk about accessibility. Like,
I will say though,
how?
in direct opposition to that point, they did try that with the Met at Home Gala, and it sucked ass. Now, granted, this most recent gala, it was kind of neat. It was kind of quaint, but knowing that they kind of broke their contract with their own orchestra union, as well as the cost of flying out freaking Matthew Polenzani, as well as the cost of renting out that venue, leads to a big this to the Metropolitan Opera.
If you're not watching, he's using his middle finger, but you could probably assume that with the way we've been talking about it. But it's just like, how do we grow? And I mean, I think the ultimate thing that I think about is like, beyond all the fucking money, because that's, neither of us are economics majors, so we have no, we've done our studies, you've got your numbers, but accessibility, how does this like, how are people going to want to come towards this when they hear all this shit? Like, how does opera move forward from COVID and make it so anyone can be a part of it, anyone can enjoy it, because constantly you talked about it in your book, the jargon, like that's a big, like, closed gate, for a lot of people. Like, how do you think we manifest more interest in this industry that seems like it just doesn't want to adapt?
There are a few solutions to this. First are people who are privy to the opera world bringing in outsiders. I remember to La Traviata last year, my buddy Peter, he is a mechanical engineering major at University of Illinois. He has no formal musical training whatsoever. He was visiting me for the weekend, and I took him to Traviata. And as we were sitting there after the show, you might have been there. You might have seen him.
Maybe.
Kind of tall guy, glasses,
I could have been in New York. I really could have been in New York. I really think I was in New York, actually.
Okay, okay. All that said,
Yeah.
my friends, they were going off on, that typical opera jargon. And I asked Peter front up, well, what'd you think of it? And he said, it was nice. I don't get all the nuances that you guys are talking about. And granted, I don't speak Italian, but it was nice. And it was like nice to, enjoy the theater of it all.
Yeah.
So for for people who are inside the opera community, making genuine effort to bring people to the show, and also just don't tell them you're going to an opera. That's another thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Opera has a PR problem, so you shouldn't tell someone you're taking them into an opera until halfway through when they ask, "Is this an opera?" And you say,
is this, are we on Broadway? Phantom? No. We're Lincoln Center. That's about 10 streets down. Well, Phantom more like 20.
yeah. So there's that element of it. Another element of it, building on that branding nub, is to really be a whole lot more inclusive in terms of programming. For example, the revolution of Steve Jobs, one of our personal favorites.
Absolutely.
It's a kind of house electronic electroacoustic opera about Steve Jobs.
I was wondering how you would categorize it. I was really looking forward to see how you would categorize that in this, because I was like, I don't know what to say. It's like EDM opera.
yeah, exactly. But it's short. It's in English. It's about someone that almost everyone in America probably knows. The only people who don't are probably 4-year-olds.
Android users.
I'm an Android user, and I know about Steve Jobs. And it's also an accessible musical language. In music theory, there's a highfalutin term for it called topic theory, where you say, oh, there's a horn call in Mozart's K332. But what that is it's a sound from everyday life. And, in the revolution of Steve Jobs, there are sounds that we recognize from our everyday lives, integrated and woven into the harmonic fabric of that show. So all of those elements made it a much more accessible opera. Also, the fact that it's new really kind of, I feel like, hammers that home. So if you have all of those elements in your programming, what you're going to end up with is, you might alienate some people who don't like new opera or go for those classic shows, but you're going to bring in a lot more people who would really like it. For example, I was dating a musical theater major at the time, and I brought her to this show, and she was like, "That was so cool." I mean, it was practically musical theater, and that's what opera is. Opera is musical theater.
We have uttered bars here on this podcast here, and
bars.
After all these bars, any final remarks you would like to say? Anything you want to put people onto that you got going on coming up, Duncan?
Yes, I'm working on a project that is related to arts policy. It's why I had all those policy initiatives and ideas. That will be announced in the public, assuming that this first round of, pitching and competition goes well.
All right.
So you'll hear from me. Otherwise,
absolutely.
Otherwise, forget about it. In the other news, you already heard about my plug for the radio show, and wish all the artists in your life a hearty thank you, and buy them a coffee one day. They need one. And
we always need coffee. Seriously, if you want to give an artist a gift, it's always coffee or tea, because some people just don't Duke coffee, and that's a sin among humanity. But
But
also,
more accurately, that's about is it's about showing that person deference and gratitude, um, saying that I haven't forgotten about you. I haven't forgotten about the value that you provide, and if I know that this is a small token of my appreciation, but it is a token nonetheless. People are really responsive to that, especially right now. If you have the means to donate to funds such as the Artist Relief Fund or your local chapters, local performing arts organizations, I highly encourage you to do so, because an active and engaged citizenry is the key to making any performing art possible.
oh my gosh, you got so wholesome. This is a show where I say fuck, piss, and shit a bunch. Like,
Yeah, I know.
I don't know really how to respond to that. Also, dude, what about your social media? You didn't even drop the handles. Where they at?
Okay. At Duncan Donuts, DUNCANDOUNUTS. That's my Instagram handle. That's where all the fire is. Follow at Voices of Tomorrow's Songs, all one word. If you want some outdated opera content, at Duncan Holzhall on TikTok.
Okay.
TikToks.
Making TikToks, dropping bars every day.
Add me on LinkedIn. Duncan
LinkedIn,
Holzhall,
can't forget about it. Can't forget about it.
Entrepreneur and producer. And if you have a job, consider me for it.
Absolutely. Duncan is deep in the hole, and he's looking for a job badly as graduation is approaching. Not to put pressure on him.
And I need a new tattoo.
Oh, yes. It's really all about the tattoo, not the money. It's just the tattoo.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, you need the money to get the tattoo. So,
Right.
Anyway, during this show, we reviewed kombucha. It's a solid 6.5 out of 10. I'd buy it again.
Also, we reviewed my multivitamin supplement.
Multivitamins.
I'd say 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10. Okay, all right.
No garlic extract.
No garlic extract. No fish eyes.
Morning.
I just smell like fish and anchovies in the morning. Yeah, morning breath. We're referencing Cody Co. None of that was original in the slightest. But just want to say thank you again, Duncan, for being on the show today. And folks, thank you for listening. If you like the show, hit like. If you're watching on YouTube, or if we're finally on Apple Music and Spotify, please subscribe there, or subscribe on YouTube, as I've stated before.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. Peace.
Adios.